What's a secret that you think would shock everyone if it came out? Story 1. I once convinced a teacher that she had lost my book report, which was due in the final week of the school year. She gave me a B+ on it, which kept my A in the class, and we all moved on. I was a good student, she liked me, and she knew I had been working on the report. So when she told me I hadn't turned it in, she trusted me when I insisted that I had. The next day, she told me she had found it and graded it. At the end of the summer, while preparing for the next school year, I found the report tucked in the back of my binder. I had actually completed it, and I probably would have received the grade she gave me, but somehow I had misplaced it and only thought I had turned it in. I was so torn about what to do. I felt like I should tell her, but I also worried that she would get into more trouble than I would for claiming she had found it. In the end, I kept my mouth shut and never told anyone. I'm 34 now, and I still think about this all the time. Story 2. My best friend has always been a bit standoffish in relationships and had commitment issues, but then she met this guy and was instantly hooked. 5 very happy years together. He helped raise her kids, they had no financial struggles, and she was finally heading toward the marriage and life she had always dreamed of. I met him several times. Genuinely, one of the hardest working, kindest people I had ever known. At least that's what we thought. Toward the end of their relationship, he came clean and admitted he was a functioning meth addict. He attended sobriety meetings twice a week while actively using. We were all mind blown. We never suspected a thing. He'd use while working in the garage on his car, but he never showed any strange behavior, had no noticeable smell, was always clean, and maintained perfect attendance at work. He even slept fine. It was unreal. Fast forward a year, she began to suspect he was using meth again, so she went through his phone, expecting to find messages to a dealer or something. Instead, she found something much worse. He had been sharing explicit material of children, including videos of her own kids. Footage he had secretly recorded with a hidden camera. The police seized all his devices and arrested him the night he came home from work. It just goes to show, you can never truly know some people. I would have never guessed any of this about him, let alone that he was a predator. Story 3. This happened about 2 or 3 years ago. I've helped raise those kids since they were born, and their mom and I debated for a long time whether we should tell them the truth. But because children were involved, Child Protective Services had to ensure neither of them had been physically harmed or coerced by him. So, we sat them down individually and had the conversation. All 3 of them insisted they were never harmed. Then the court made them testify against him. It was painful and confusing for them. This man had been the father figure they had always wanted, and he had betrayed them in ways beyond their understanding. It has been a long road of therapy for everyone involved, along with several protective orders, and that's not even the worst of it. While he was in jail, he hired someone to burn down their house with everyone inside. He slashed all 4 tires on her car so she couldn't leave. He had people following us for weeks. At one point, someone even broke into my house while they were staying with me. It's been a nightmare, but we've taken extreme measures to keep the kids safe. Mentally, they're doing much better now, but he's set to be released in December. Story 4. Over 20 years ago, I messed up badly. I completely flunked my first year of college, lost my full-ride scholarship, dropped out, and spiraled into a destructive cycle of drugs and self-destruction for a couple of years. Eventually, I got my life together. I sobered up, went back to school, and all things considered, have done exceptionally well for myself. I'm sharing this because I could have avoided all of my problems if I had just been honest with my parents. I was embarrassed and ashamed. I was supposed to be the smartest one in the family, yet I failed out of college. My pride wouldn't let me go back home, break down, and admit the truth. But here's what I've learned. Failing is 100% normal. I've done it a lot. What's not okay is giving up and continuing to fail. If you're struggling, talk to someone. Get help. None of us get through life alone. I hope this reaches even one person and helps them avoid the mistakes I made. Story 5. The number of coworkers my married female colleague has slept with while having a husband and child is unreal. Her husband knew about one of them and still tried to mend the relationship because he loved her so much. In the past, she told him she had an emotional affair, but in reality, she was already sleeping around. Again, he forgave her, thinking they had worked things out. I personally know of at least 6 guys she has slept with multiple times, not including me. She told me they had broken up, but their divorce isn't official yet. Some of these encounters happened right in the office, in conference rooms, the basement parking lot, you name it. I mean, this woman would hook up with a guy in the parking lot, clean up, pick up her daughter from daycare, drive home to have lunch with her husband as a family, and then return to the office to be with another guy before leaving for the day. If her husband ever found out the full extent of what happened, I honestly fear for both his life and hers. Story 6. I get all my work done in about 6 hours per week, spread across a maximum of 3 days at the office. A workday for me consists of handling tasks that require my physical presence, and as soon as the mission time ends, I leave. The rest of my time is spent on my money-making side hobbies, catching up on movies, reading, or working on home renovation projects. I'm officially authorized to work from home 2 days per week, always Thursday and Friday. As long as I monitor emails, handle incoming tasks promptly, and perform like a responsible worker, nobody cares. For years, I've essentially had 4-day weekends, a full salary with benefits, and I work completely alone, physically. If I had no integrity, I could milk this even more, since my closest coworker is literally 1,200 miles away. But I know how good I have it, so I don't push my luck. Nobody else in my program has a setup like this, but we were all given the opportunity to negotiate aspects of our contracts. I guess the others just didn't take advantage of it. I simply asked, you can pay me to sit here for 40 hours and be miserable, or you can trust me to come and go as an adult, see my productivity, and keep me happy. It worked with minimal effort. My boss even asked me not to share the details of my arrangement with anyone else in the program. Under this setup, my salary works out to roughly $104 per hour. I haven't had real work stress in over 9 years, and the company loves my output enough to send me frequent bonus incentives. I know exactly how lucky I am. If this ever got out, the others in my program would be shocked, then jealous, then pissed. Story 7. After my hemorrhagic stroke, I was placed in a nursing home for 4 years. For 3 of those years, I faked incontinence. My stroke didn't actually cause incontinence, but in the beginning, I was bedbound. Pressing the call light to request some help getting to the bathroom often took hours, so instead of asking for assistance to use the toilet, I started asking to be changed instead. Once I was no longer bedbound, transferring to the toilet was still difficult. The staff prioritized changing residents over assisting them with toileting, so I decided to stop stressing about it. I just used the incontinence briefs they provided. But by Christmas 2022, guilt started eating away at me. I began researching ways to regain bladder control after a stroke. I told the CNAs I was working on strengthening my pelvic floor muscles and would try to get assistance using the toilet. I started out slowly, only using the bathroom on weekends. I justified it by saying that on weekdays, with meals in the dining room and scheduled activities, it was harder to get back to my room in time, another lie to help me transition. Still, the shame of the waste I was creating weighed on me. I started worrying. What if my mom showed up unexpectedly for a care plan meeting, found out I had been lying, and exposed me to the CNAs? They would probably be furious. So on May 1st, I had a new CNA and decided enough was enough. It was time to do what I should have been doing all along. 1 week turned into 2, then a month, then several months. As the guilt faded, I started feeling free. Regularly using the bathroom boosted my confidence in transferring, and one day, when I really needed to pee and my CNA was busy with another resident, I realized I could stand, balance myself, pull down my clothes, and get onto the toilet on my own. I called for assistance only when I needed help pulling my clothes back up and transferring back to my wheelchair. From that moment on, I never went back. Last month, I moved out of the nursing home and into a wheelchair-accessible house with direct support staff. I was nervous about transferring in a new space, but thanks to my year of practice in the nursing home, I figured it out without help, except for still needing assistance pulling up my clothes. I'm sure some people suspected I was never actually incontinent, but no one ever said anything. I don't think I'll ever tell my mom the truth. If she knew, she'd probably be furious, give me the silent treatment, and stay distant. But honestly, she had unrealistic expectations about the quality of care I was receiving. She thought I should have been getting immediate assistance, even though I repeatedly told her that CNAs had 16+ residents to care for and couldn't always respond right away. In the beginning, it sometimes took over 3 hours just to be helped out of bed or get changed. I made the best decision I could at the time, and in the end, I figured it out on my own. Story 8. I'm almost 40, but I still carry the mental scars left by my parents' divorce when I was 15. They think I have my life together, and after all these years, it would probably shock them to know how much I still struggle. At the time, they didn't pay much attention to me. They were too caught up in their own battles. But I feel like the statute of limitations on that has expired. It would feel strange to bring it up now or let it show. They also had their own demons, alcoholism, suicidal thoughts, struggles they eventually overcame. I worry that if they ever realized how I truly feel, it might send them spiraling back into a dark place. So I keep it to myself. Story 9. This story comes from one of my siblings who was in high school at the time. There was a school called 19, shortened to 19. One day, a student in a chemistry class accidentally drank a chemical from a glass, mistaking it for water. She died alone, with her mouth filled with white fumes. What makes this even more disturbing is that no one, aside from the teachers and staff, was ever told about it. My sibling's mom used to work there and shared the story. I've also heard rumors that the school paid the girl's parents a large sum to keep quiet about the incident. I can't confirm if that's true, but the whole situation has always felt deeply unsettling. Story 10. Back when I was still a virgin, I went to a punk concert in London while on vacation. I ended up chatting with the girls in the band, and we hit it off. They invited me to a club, so I tagged along. Turned out the club was actually a staircase in an industrial complex leading down, 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 into a full-blown dominatrix dungeon party. I had the time of my life stepping on guys who were literally begging for it. Some of them were actually super cute. My friends would never guess I did something like that. At one point, a man paid me £300 just to let April, a femme-male sub who worked there as a stripper, give me a lap dance in one of the back rooms, on a very suspicious-looking leather couch. To this day, I'm still on the lookout for a cute sub or switch male. That experience really awakened something in me. Story 11. The secret I carry is that I kept my mom from being with her brother when he died. He was being prepped for a life flight from his small-town hospital to a world-class medical facility. The doctors had just discovered that he had lived his whole life with a weak heart, a bad valve, and an enlarged heart. It was close to noon, and I was with my mom in the emergency room. I noticed that his heart monitor looked bad, really bad. I glanced at the doctor, then back at the monitor. The doctor saw what I saw and just nodded. I turned to my mom and said, "Hey, it'll be an hour until they transport him. Let's grab some Mexican food before our long drive." On our way out, I mouthed to my uncle, "It's all right. I saw him slump down after that, and I got my mom out of there before the chaos of a crash cart descended on him." To me, it was better to remove her from the scene rather than have her watch the frantic, desperate attempts to save a life that was already slipping away. It's been 25 years, and I still wonder if I did the right thing. Story 12. Years ago, my insecure virgin friend bragged to us about finally losing his virginity to the hottest girl. We didn't believe him. He had a history of making up stories about this, and every time we caught him in the lie. He was obsessed with the fact that he was still a virgin at 24, and his number one goal was to change that. It was clear he wasn't in a great place mentally, and we did our best to boost his confidence and reassure him that it didn't matter. But nothing we said seemed to help. This time, though, he insisted it was real and promised to prove it to us. One night at the pub, he brought her over. She was gorgeous. Naturally, we started gently prying into the details of their sex life. To our surprise, she was very open about it, saying they had been together for 2 months and that my friend had spent the night with her dozens of times. Some of us suspected he had paid her to play along, especially since we never saw them kiss or even act particularly close that night. But eventually, we let it go. He seemed happy, and it looked like he had finally achieved what he wanted so badly. We never saw the girl again, but that wasn't unusual. We didn't typically bring girlfriends around for group hangouts. A few months later, I saw the same girl on the train. I casually asked how her boyfriend was doing, and she said he was good. He had just left for the Air Force. My friend was still in town, obviously, so I asked, "Well, what about virgin friend? Did you lie to us that night?" She laughed and said no. My friend had been over to their house many times, but the sex she referred to only involved her and her Air Force boyfriend, while my friend watched. She had a kink for sexually humiliating guys, and I guess my friend thought that was better than nothing. It all clicked. The way she had worded things that night had been deliberately vague. Technically not a lie, but also not what we assumed. I never told anyone. I never confronted him. A few months later, they broke up, and to this day, my friend still tells stories about how he used to hit that. I just play along and keep his secret. Story 13. I received my diploma physically but not digitally. I don't think I technically graduated with my master's degree. I was supposed to submit a final project, but my brain was completely overwhelmed. It was during COVID. I had recently lost my husband. I was a single mom, waiting on a potential cancer diagnosis, had just moved across the country, did all my classes online, was caring for my dad, working full-time, and fighting to get my own apartment. I never submitted the paper. Later, I spoke to the professor's assistant about it, but he was dealing with his own father's cancer battle. He told me that if I submitted just one more project, one that was required to graduate, he would send me everything I needed digitally. During finals, I carried my entire group. The professor and his assistant were amazed at how I handled everything, especially since one of my group members tried to sabotage us, deleting our work out of spite. It was exhausting. I never wanted to look back. I think I have some sort of mental block about completing an extensive project like that. Since it was a group effort, I lost access to some of the shared drives and I just shut down. The whole experience was so traumatic that I walked away from my dream career and settled into office work instead. I don't know what would happen if I tried to re-enter my field. I have the diploma, but it might not mean anything. Story 14. Years ago, I was in an elevator chatting with my neighbor, an older Caucasian woman. She asked what I did for a living, and I told her I sold appliances, which wasn't my current job at the time, just something I used to do. She then mentioned that she had once been a nurse for the head of a major appliance brand. On his deathbed, he confided in her that all the top leaders of the major appliance companies had met together and admitted they were making their products too well. Back in the day, appliances would last for decades. That was a problem for their bottom line. So they collectively decided to start manufacturing them to break down sooner, forcing consumers to replace them more frequently. I was shocked. I wish I had written down the specifics, but now that story's lost to time. Story 15. When I was 17, my dad almost killed me. If my stepmother hadn't physically pulled him back and snapped him out of it, I truly believe he would have strangled me to death. It took me 3 years to even speak to him again. 3 years to stop feeling hatred. 3 years to replace my anger with forgiveness. To turn my desire for vengeance into a need to understand. I'm 32 now, and even though I worked hard to forgive him and to understand what turned him into a violent man, I still can't bring myself to hug him without feeling like I need to be ready to defend myself at any moment. He apologized, but he never went into detail, never said it would never happen again. And if you're wondering, no, I wasn't a troubled child. I wasn't acting out, causing problems, or doing anything reckless. The only thing I did to set him off was place my hand on his shoulder, calmly suggesting that we could resolve our conflict peacefully. Nothing justified his outburst except for his own childhood trauma. When I have children of my own, I will make it my mission to end the cycle of violence that every generation before me has endured. Parents should be a child's greatest ally, not their greatest threat. Story 16. I have been in love with a friend who lives 1,000 miles away for years. We haven't talked in months, not since he started dating someone. I suffer every day, but I've never been able to tell anyone about it. I've dated other people since, and on the surface, I go about my life as if everything is normal. To most, this probably wouldn't seem like a shocking secret, but to the people who know me, I think it would be. I have a good life, a full life, and not much to complain about. But deep down, I don't think I'll ever love anyone as much as I loved him. I dream about the day we'll finally see each other. I fear that people will think I'm foolish for falling so hard for someone I've never even met in person. That's why I've never told anyone. Realistically, I know we'll never be together. The distance makes sure of that, so I suppress my feelings. I've told myself I've moved on, but it's been years, and with every experience, I've only grown more certain that I will never love anyone the way I loved him. We've been friends since I was 12. He is the only person I'd ever willingly talk to for 48 hours straight. The only person I still hope will be in my life for years to come. Story 17. I believe that a lot of science, particularly the soft sciences, is full of inaccuracies. It's relatively easy to get funding for a study with a novel idea, but confirming prior studies? That's much harder. If your study contradicts a previous one, it's largely meaningless unless more follow-up studies are done. All you can really say is that you couldn't replicate the original results. And if your study does confirm previous findings, you're essentially sharing the spotlight instead of bringing in fresh recognition for your department. In the world of academia, that means less prestige, fewer citations, and fewer opportunities for funding. It might not seem like a strong enough incentive to distort the system, but it is. Between flawed studies designed for pop science soundbites and an academic structure that rewards novelty over accuracy, we're at serious risk of losing legitimacy. Story 18. 8 months ago, I had a complete mental breakdown. I've been off work since. For 4 months, I didn't step outside my house once. I've cycled through 5 different medications, but none seem to work. I'm supposed to go back to work soon, not because I'm ready, but because I'm financially struggling and need my full paycheck. I've told my wife, my counselor, and my boss that I'm feeling 100% better. But the truth is, I've just learned how to hide the extreme anxiety. The idea of returning to work terrifies me. Even something as simple as a trip to the store makes my heart race, my stomach knot up, and my body break out in a sweat. My 2 adult children and my mother have no idea what I'm going through. My kids live in different parts of the country, and I don't want to worry them. My mom comes from an old school mentality. She believes that people with mental health struggles are either attention seekers or weak-minded. To make things worse, I lost my father last month. Now I'm doing my best to keep everyone, especially my mom, focused on staying positive. Meanwhile, my own mind is drowning in depression, anxiety, and stress. I hope I can keep my secret and somehow get better, but right now I see no light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know what else to do except keep hiding this unbearable weight from everyone around me. Story 19. One of the 100 biggest companies in the US has a C-suite that is completely unhinged. They constantly push for changes that would bankrupt the company in less than a year. Ideas like doubling the prices of their best-selling products, spending billions to automate tasks that can't realistically be automated, and screwing over customers with outrageous exclusivity contracts. The only thing standing between these terrible decisions and total disaster is the head of one crucial department. He is the only high-level executive who isn't a spineless yes man hoping to take the CEO's job one day. I won't get into specifics, but this is one of those companies where you definitely recognize the name, even if you have no idea what they actually do, unless you work in a specific industry. Odds are, you've used their products without even realizing it. If this department head ever retires, the ripple effect across the US would be massive. Everyone would feel it, even if they had no idea it was connected to this company. I've never personally worked there, but I know people who have. And the number of disastrous ideas that were barely stopped in time is genuinely terrifying. Story 20. There are multiple technologies that American police actively block from being used, because if they didn't, they would catch more criminals than they could realistically process. Some examples. Facial recognition software. If an officer is given a security image of a suspect, e.g., a shoplifter, facial recognition could easily match it to a driver's license database. That, combined with other data, could quickly identify the person. But in most areas, this technology is blocked from being used at the officer level. License plate reader, LPR cameras. Many cities already use LPR cameras in high-traffic areas, and law enforcement agencies can also subscribe to private LPR networks. These systems can instantly flag stolen cars, vehicles involved in crimes, or those linked to suspects. But if every officer had immediate access to this data, there would be more arrests, which would also mean more high-speed chases, wrecked police cars, and increased risks of injury or death. DNA analysis. DNA can be collected from nearly any crime scene, but traditionally it's only analyzed for serious crimes because the process has been expensive. Now, newer and cheaper technology exists that could make DNA testing viable for lower-level cases. Persistent airborne cameras. Look up the Baltimore Airborne Camera Project. It involved flying a plane over a 5-mile area, continuously recording everything below. When a crime happened, like a bank robbery, investigators could simply rewind the footage to track where the suspect came from and where they went. The program was eventually shut down due to public backlash. These technologies exist and are usable, but they are blocked at the ground level. Not necessarily because of privacy concerns, but because law enforcement agencies know they would be overwhelmed by the sheer volume of cases they would suddenly be able to solve. Story 21. My boyfriend's betrayal ruined me. Nobody knows, not even my sister or his mom, because he said this should stay between us. He told me that if we love each other, we should make it work, that he loves me more than I'll ever know, that he regrets it. But he's not the same sweet partner he used to be. His actions say he loves me, but the care, the real care, is barely there anymore. Unless I'm visibly upset, he doesn't show it the way he used to. Even when he does, it's different now. It feels forced, like an obligation instead of something genuine. It's been over 4 months since I found out. I wish I hadn't. I wish I could go back to being oblivious and stupid. He was my best friend. I never thought he would do something like this to me. The possibility had never even crossed my mind. I trusted him with my whole life, and now I don't know if I'll ever feel whole again. Story 22. High school was extremely difficult for me, academically at least. I have high intelligence, but undiagnosed autism and bipolar disorder made traditional schooling nearly impossible. Socially, though, I thrived. In my senior year, we were assigned a 10-page essay on any topic of our choice. Total freedom. I did none of it, not a single page. Every time I sat down to try and write, I became overwhelmed. I would just sit there, filling with frustration, sometimes crying, sometimes consumed by rage. So I avoided it. When the deadline passed and my paper was never turned in, my teacher pulled me aside and asked why. Without hesitation, I lied. Oh, what? I don't know what could have happened. I turned it into the box with friend's name on Thursday. It was about the Seattle Symphony. It was supposed to be about the Seattle Symphony. I had genuinely planned to write it, being a passionate musician myself. She believed me, just like that. No questioning, no doubt. She gave me an A. That was 8 years ago, and I think I'll feel guilty about it for the rest of my life. Story 23. My secret is that I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, at university or in life. I graduated with a bachelor's degree summa cum laude and am now excelling in my postgraduate studies. Everyone praises my academic abilities and calls me smart. But the truth, I never study. I don't take my academics seriously at all, except for the validation. I live for the validation. I start studying the day before exams, barely make it through half the content, and then go completely blank during the actual test. I do all my assignments at the last minute, sometimes just hours before they're due. If I miss a deadline, I just email my professor with an excuse. They always believe me because I'm their exceptional top student, so I get away with it. I try not to make a habit of it, but honestly, it works every time. I rarely attend classes. I never look at the course material throughout the semester. Most of the time, the day before an exam is the first time I'm seeing any of the content. I can't tell if I'm just lazy or severely depressed. Every semester I panic, thinking I'll fail and have to repeat a module. But then, without fail, I pass with flying colors. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel earned. I don't feel smart because I can't passionately discuss a single topic or give an informed opinion on anything. My grades are as good as, or better than, those of students who work hard all semester, but I barely retain anything. I feel like a fraud. I'm terrified that one day I'll be thrown into the workplace with a qualification I don't actually deserve, and the illusion will shatter. If I told anyone, especially my parents, they'd be shocked. They put me on a pedestal. They think I spend hours studying in my room, but in reality, I just lie in bed, scrolling through social media and watching shows. I'm an introvert, so I don't go out much. When people invite me to things, I tell them, I have to study. They believe me because, of course, I would be studying, but I never actually do. The last time I genuinely studied for days before an exam was in the 8th grade. My parents constantly compare me to my siblings, telling them they're lazy and that I get good results because I'm disciplined and hardworking. It's ironic because I'm the laziest of them all. I've walked into final exams completely unprepared, relied on general knowledge and instinct, and somehow aced them. How? Riddle me this, riddle me that. Guess me this riddle, and perhaps not. Because honestly, I don't freaking know either. Sometimes I wonder what kind of grades I'd get if I actually studied, but I guess we'll never know. Story 24. I know a guy who is very close friends with an NBA player, and according to him, a lot of the games and results are rigged. I'm not sure if I fully believe it, but he claims there's a reason why certain players dominate, and that their success often aligns with cultural trends at the time. For example, when Kawhi Leonard went to Toronto, it just so happened to be during a time when Canadian artists like Drake, The Weeknd, Party Next Door, and Bieber were dominating the music industry. And Nikola Jokic's rise? His whole, I don't care about basketball, I just want to race horses, persona is perfect marketing for Gen Z, rebellious, laid back, and nonchalant about success. Apparently, players are contractually limited in how much time they can possess the ball, among other restrictions that subtly control the game's outcome. Of course, this could all be a lie. Maybe my friend's NBA buddy is just a mid-tier player using this as an excuse, but he's played for some great teams and isn't considered bad, so who knows? Story 25. A few years ago, my grandma, on my dad's side, spilled a whole lot of tea about my mom's side of the family, stuff I had no idea about. She told me about my aunts doing drugs, how I was lied to as a kid about my dad's multiple stays in rehab and psychiatric wards, and that's secret number 1. And then she casually mentioned that my mom was seen on dating apps before my parents split. At first, I didn't want to believe it, but then my mom admitted it herself, without even realizing what she was saying. We were in the car listening to the radio, and they asked, "If you and your partner had to get married at the place you first met, where would it be?" Without hesitation, my mom said, "Well, me and your stepdad met on a dating app, so that would be kind of hard." She had no idea what she had just revealed. The reason I know she was on dating apps before my dad moved out is because I remember my dad finding a photo of her and my now stepdad posted on someone's Facebook. He confronted her about it. Their anniversary is just a few weeks before my birthday, and my parents didn't officially split until after that. Not that their marriage was ever great to begin with. They had kids young. My mom was only 20 when she had my older brother and 21 when she had me. So yeah, I don't think my dad ever really knew the full details about why the marriage failed. Story 26. When I was younger, I used to spend a lot of time in the woods behind my house with my friends, usually when my mom wasn't home. She worked a lot to provide for me. My father passed away before I was born, so I had plenty of time to explore. One day, my friend and I wandered farther than usual and ended up near a road we didn't even know was there. We were playing tag, and he was faster than me. He ran ahead laughing, and I chased after him. Neither of us saw the car. He ran straight into the street, and before I could even process what was happening, he was hit. I turned and ran. I was overwhelmed, panicked, and I didn't know what to do. Later, I saw it on the news. They said he died instantly. Nobody ever knew that I was there, that I saw it happen, that I watched his life end right in front of me. For years, I've carried this. I ask myself over and over, what if we hadn't gone that far? What if I had been it instead? What if we had stayed home that day? I'm 17 now, and it still plagues me. I've gone to therapy, I've talked to people, and it's helped some. The nightmares aren't as constant as they used to be, but it never really goes away. This is my secret. I don't talk about it casually, but sharing it feels like the most human thing I can do. Story 27. I'm the reason my parents officially separated. Their marriage had been falling apart for a long time. A few of my siblings and my dad had their suspicions that my mom was emotionally cheating. One day my dad came to me and asked if I thought his suspicions were true. Instead of comforting him or trying to soften the blow, I just told him the truth. No hesitation, no tact. I simply said yes and showed him some text messages I had seen pop up on her phone. To this day, I don't know why I told him. Maybe I thought I was helping. Maybe I just wanted it all to be over. That night, he didn't sleep in their bed like usual. A week later, he moved out. The whole family was shocked by how suddenly he decided to leave. I still feel guilty about it. My mom is in pieces and she has no idea that I was the one who confirmed his suspicions. Their marriage was bound to end eventually, but how it ended, the way it all unraveled so fast, was because of me. Some of my siblings are still upset about the divorce. They don't understand what happened, and I know if they ever found out, they'd be angry with me. They'd blame me for breaking our family apart, so I haven't told anyone, and I probably never will. Story 28. All of my older siblings, co-workers, and many of my friends, excluding my fiance, smoke cigarettes or vape. I have always been outspoken about how they should quit because it's bad for them. I genuinely care about their well-being. Around this time last year, I was going through a really rough period at the plant where I work. We were pulling 12 to 16-hour shifts, and some of us, myself included, were even working over 20-hour shifts due to an emergency shutdown. During that time, I picked up the habit myself, telling myself it was only temporary and that I would quit once things settled down. And I did for about 6 months. Then one day, a coworker who had decided to quit, partly because of my constant urging, handed me a half-pack of cigarettes and asked me to throw it away. Instead, I started smoking again. Nobody knows. I hide it because I'm ashamed of how strongly I've spoken against smoking, only to end up doing it myself. I sit at picnic tables at gas stations when I smoke, away from prying eyes. My younger siblings look up to me because I'm the only one among us who doesn't smoke those nasty things. But in reality, I feel like I've gone too far down the path of addiction. I'm sure I'll find the willpower to quit soon. But for now, it just feels good to get this off my chest. Story 29. The U.S. Federal Witness Protection Program, WITSEC, doesn't actually protect witnesses the way people think. They provide a name change with corresponding documents and a small, very small amount of cash to help you relocate. But they don't offer physical protection, nor do they provide a yearly stipend. You're on your own. You have to get a job, earn your own money, and pay your own bills like anyone else. And here's the worst part. WITSEC employees have been known to disclose a witness's new name and location to members of criminal organizations, if those members are willing to trade information about their own syndicate or a rival's higher-ups. This isn't some conspiracy theory. It happens. Criminals who help take down higher-ranking figures often get rewarded by moving up in their organization. This isn't the movies. This is real life. Story 30. Jeffrey Epstein died while Donald Trump was the most powerful person in the U.S. There are allegedly videotapes of Trump and other high-profile figures with underage girls. When Epstein was arrested, those in the tapes, including Trump, wanted to ensure those recordings never saw the light of day. Epstein, knowing the power those tapes held, kept them well hidden, intending to use them as leverage to protect himself. But when he refused to give them up, he became a problem that needed to be eliminated. Donald Trump allegedly orchestrated Epstein's death. Not directly, of course, because that would be illegal. But if those close to him gave the order on his behalf, it was only a matter of time before Epstein was silenced. Ghislaine Maxwell knows where the tapes are. If anything were to happen to her, as it did to Epstein, those recordings would be released, something none of the people in them want. So why weren't the tapes leaked immediately after Epstein's death? Because he hadn't had enough time to coordinate their release. Ghislaine, however, has had time, and if something happens to her, the world may finally see what they were meant to hide. Story 31. Not sure if this counts, but when the Thwaites Glacier, also known as the Doomsday Glacier, detaches within the next 5 years and melts over the following 5, the chaos it will unleash is beyond comprehension. Some may argue this isn't inevitable, but unfortunately it is, and it might happen even sooner. Think back to how expensive construction materials became during COVID, when everyone rushed to build home offices and backyard decks. Now imagine the demand for raw materials when 20% of the world's population has to relocate due to rising sea levels. Think the global supply chain was bad before, with shortages of computer chips and cars? Just wait. Think your city's infrastructure was strained due to immigration or rapid growth? Imagine every high-ground city suddenly overwhelmed by millions of climate refugees, with no way to quickly scale up water, electricity, roads, or housing. If you have anything major to buy or build in the next 20 years, do it within the next 5. Otherwise, you may find yourself either unable to get it or paying 400% more than you would today. Story 32. We have about 15 to 20 years before climate change sends the world's economies into free fall, taking most of civilization down with them. Insurance markets, housing, and coastal economies will collapse. The largest human migration in history, driven by the global south becoming uninhabitable, will put unbearable strain on governments worldwide. Add to that a global famine caused by an unstable climate, and you have a recipe for disaster. The collapse won't be sudden or cinematic. It will be a slow, steady decline, rising violence, skyrocketing food costs, and growing instability. Then one day you'll wake up to find the power's out, the grocery store shelves are empty, and there's no one left to fix it. At this point, there is no solution. The carbon we pumped into the atmosphere decades ago has already set off irreversible feedback loops, pushing global temperatures beyond the 4 degrees Celsius threshold. No miracle technology is coming to save us. The only ones truly preparing for what's ahead are the ultra-rich, who have been hoarding resources and building private compounds, ready to rule over whatever remains, like warlords in a wasteland. And yet nobody really cares. We all feel it happening, but we continue as if everything is fine. We post memes about the latest natural disasters, the violence, the instability, until one day we can't. Story 33. There is a scientifically grounded method for communing with non-physical intelligences in a state of gnosis, revealing the deepest truths and mysteries of life. The understanding of these principles and techniques is rapidly coming to the forefront of human knowledge, and we are approaching a tipping point. With each generation, humanity refines its language, symbolic maps, and understanding of the mind. What was once occult or esoteric gradually becomes part of the collective consciousness. Alchemy became chemistry, natural philosophy became science, and now magic can be simply defined as the art and science of causing change in the universe in accordance with one's will. The realization of these principles teaches us that the individual is the highest measurement in the spiritual hierarchy. Humanity stands as both the highest of physical beings and the lowest of spiritual beings, a creature caught between two worlds. No longer do authority or salvation come from dogma, law, or tribal tradition. Instead, the light of each individual's genius becomes a star that burns as the visible God in the cosmos. There is no law beyond "do what thou wilt." None of this is a secret. It has been developing for over 120 years, but now we are reaching a boiling point. Humanity is about to undergo a profound cultural shift, redefining its spiritual pursuit, not in service to any tribe or dogma, but in pursuit of individual expression and enlightenment. Story 34. If I told my family that I wasn't actually improving when it comes to my mental health, I don't think they would believe me. To them, I wear a mask that makes everything seem fine, like I'm doing better, like I'm okay. But I'm not. Behind that mask, my mind is filled with thoughts I don't know how to explain. Thoughts of not wanting to exist. Thoughts of doing things that would scar me for life. Sometimes I'm just overwhelmed with sadness for no reason at all. But to my family, this past summer has been perfect. Everything has been going well. Everything is fine. Except it's not. A few people suspect the truth, and deep down, I know that I'm not fine. I even tried to talk to my mom about it, tried to explain how I feel emotionally numb, but she didn't understand. And honestly, I can't blame her. I don't even understand it myself. I just know that I feel this way sometimes, and I have no idea how to tell anyone. Story 35. I am actively using again. I'm pretty sure my closest friends and family either know or at least suspect something is going on. But I live in a new city now, nearly across the state. Nobody here knows what I do. In my mind, I tell myself I'm just self-medicating, using to manage extreme social anxiety and untreated depression. The amounts I take each day are nothing compared to what other addicts, or even my past self, would use. A single purchase lasts me at least 6 months, while I've heard of others going through that same amount in just one. But I can feel it catching up to me. The way my body feels, the way my thoughts are starting to shift. It's all starting to change. And I know that if I don't stop, I'll eventually crash and burn. I could try to rationalize it. I could say I don't have insurance, and if I did, they'd just prescribe me something similar anyway. This is the cheapest and most accessible way to function in adult life. But nobody who truly loves me would buy that excuse. And honestly, neither do I. This cycle has been repeating for over 20 years now. I'm not actively trying to stop, but I know what would happen if my loved ones found out. My entire world would explode. And if I end up homeless, I'd rather not do it in a city where no one even knows my name. Story 36. Not only do we know that intelligent and advanced extraterrestrial life exists, but we have been aware of them for decades. And we have tried to make contact. But this isn't some Men in Black scenario. They don't communicate with us. They don't respond. If we attempt to reach out, the attempt is ignored or destroyed. They are there, far more advanced than we are, and they are watching. It's like a fish in a tank. A fish that is self-aware enough to know it's inside something. It knows it's being watched from the other side of the glass, but it has no idea what the being watching it is going to do, and neither do we. Story 37. During my college years, I had a coach who turned out to be a predator. I figured it out after piecing together some things. Things I can't go into too much detail about. But it started when I was venting to a friend, and they said something that didn't quite make sense at the time. Later, after hearing some rumors and connecting the dots, I realized what had happened. He had preyed on my friend. Looking back, I remember thinking their dynamic was weird, but I brushed it off. I told myself he was just a little eccentric. After all, he was a well-respected coach with years of experience and multiple championship wins. He'd been in the community for a long time, and a lot of people liked him. But now every time I see him, my stomach churns. My blood boils when I hear people around me talk about how amazing he is, how they practically worship him. That's how he gets away with it. He's built this image of being easygoing and approachable, and that's how he's been able to stay around underage students for decades. And who knows how many other lives he's destroyed. The worst part? He's still active in the community. My friend still sees him. I still see him. And when I tried to warn people, it backfired. The response I got was basically, well, I wasn't there, so it didn't happen. My friend doesn't even know that I know. And that makes all of this even harder to stomach. Story 38. The first post reminded me of something that happened 20 years ago. We were hosting a big family lunch, about 35 people. My sister, who's a vegetarian, has always been vocal about wanting a special dish made just for her. Even though I always prepared a variety of side dishes, Metzi style, plenty of vegetarian options, she still wouldn't be happy unless she had her own dish. Being the good sister and pushover that I am, I decided to make her a vegetarian pizza. At the time, I had a bread maker, though I don't use one anymore. I prefer making dough by hand. I loaded it up with flour, yeast, and everything else, then left it to do its thing. The problem? I also had a very curious 2-year-old running around the house. He loved exploring. He was a master at getting into cupboards, even with childproof locks. And most importantly, he loved putting things into the bread maker. So when I went to roll out the dough, I noticed strange little brown bits mixed in. It took me a second to realize what they were. My cat's kibble. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I had been cooking for 2 days straight, juggling 4 kids and trying to keep the house clean. I was exhausted, stressed, completely overwhelmed. So I picked out the kibbles and I didn't say a word. Story 39. I don't want to be here anymore. Every day, I feel like I'm living a lie, pretending I'm okay, acting like I'm managing whenever I see people. But every interaction feels fake. I'm a musician, a classical pianist, or at least I was. I was recently diagnosed with focal dystonia, a neurological condition that makes playing the piano, the thing that once gave me purpose, practically impossible. Some people manage to recover, but the road ahead is uncertain and miserable. Playing now feels wrong, uncomfortable, like it's something I should hate, and without music, I have nothing. I've lost faith in everything. My family feels like it's falling apart. My friends are too distant, too busy, or just gone. Half the time I feel numb. The other half, I just want to end it. There's no one to turn to. My dad is sick all the time. My mom and grandmother wouldn't understand what I'm going through. And even if I try to move on, to find something else, it won't matter. Nothing will be worth it. Finding someone won't be worth it. I can't connect with people. I don't understand them. I'm autistic, so I know I'll never find a real connection. And even if I do, it'll just end in heartbreak, in disappointment, in someone realizing who I really am and deciding I'm not worth it. I'm tired. I'm done. I have some money saved. I want to travel, to see a few places before I go. Then I'll do it. I want people to forget me. I want to disappear from this world. There is nothing here for me. I don't know who's reading this. I don't care. I guess I just wanted to say something. To be real, for the first time in months. Story 40. Mr. Beast is the biggest fraud and smartest con artist of the 21st century. He's built an empire by targeting vulnerable groups, and yet he's worshipped like some kind of saint. His grinning face on every thumbnail is one of the most sinister things I've ever seen. Long story short, he's run some of the largest illegal lotteries, aimed directly at children, but has managed to maintain a spotless public image. Why? Because so much of his money is reinvested into videos, and because he has his Beast Philanthropy channel, a perfect cover-up. And then there's the fact that he's still working out of his small hometown in North Carolina. That alone should raise massive red flags. The idea that he could easily buy off local governments and get away with anything? It's not far-fetched. That's just my theory, though. Story 41. What I really think about my parents. They don't know how much I hate them. Since I was 7, I had to be the adult in the house. I had to parent them. Because of them, there was a long stretch of my life where I genuinely believed a machine could replace me, and it wouldn't make a difference. Piece by piece, they pushed me towards sociopathy. What kind of child has to physically restrain and suffocate his own father to stop him from killing his mother? And even now, I'm supposed to listen to them. Sometimes I think about changing my last name, disappearing, finally untangling the mess in my head that they created, all thanks to them. When my mom had a miscarriage, guess who was the only one left alone? The one person no one, except his best friend, ever bothered to ask, "Are you okay?" Guess who had to hear from his own father that he preferred vodka over his own son? Guess who was betrayed by his mother when she laughed off his most painful, humiliating secrets like they were just jokes? Why is it quietly expected of me to care for the people who destroyed me? Who tore apart the real me and built some broken golem in my place, just so they could benefit from it? Story 42. To everyone in high-paying jobs who openly admit they don't know what they're doing, please quit. Everyone around you knows you're incompetent. I've lost count of how many meetings I've sat through where high-level executives laugh about how little they understand the departments they manage. They joke about it, while the people actually doing the work struggle under their mismanagement. There are so many skilled, capable people who could do these jobs well, but they can't because someone who doesn't know what they're doing refuses to step aside. Some of you need simpler jobs, and that's okay, but stop blocking organizations from running at their best just because you won't check your ego. Story 43. One of my very Christian friends who loves debating people and gets overly emotional about religion and politics has a porn on his phone. I know this because, even though I'm in an NSFW group chat where we share porn and hentai, we didn't invite him. We didn't want to offend him or tempt him since he's so devout. Everyone in that chat is an atheist, and we only invited people we knew were okay with it. But then, in a completely different group chat about video games, he posted risque fan art of a popular character, and later he privately sent me hentai variations of that same artwork. When I told my friends about it, they were shocked. This is the same guy who acts like a moral authority, who preaches constantly. And yet in another chat, he admitted he had to take down his waifu posters because his mom was visiting and had no idea he owned that kind of stuff. Even the other Christian in the group tried to warn him to stay clean-minded. Not in those exact words, but that was the sentiment. And honestly, his hypocrisy doesn't stop there. Apparently, some of his exes dumped him because he wasn't Christian enough for them. But at the same time, they told him he was too Christian because of how aggressively he debates his beliefs. I was raised Christian and eventually became atheist. But even in my religious years, I was never taught half the things he claims as gospel. And yet, despite his self-righteousness, he says and does things that piss off both Christians and atheists. Like when he told me, directly and with conviction, that no matter how good a person is, they'll still go to hell if they don't know God. The timing? It was during a celebration of a well-loved atheist friend who had recently passed away. Even my Christian friends were pissed when I told them what he said. That was the moment I decided that, if it weren't for our mutual friends, I would have cut him out of my life entirely. I'd call him out, curse him out, and never speak to him again. But for now, I tolerate him, because I love my friend group and unfortunately, he's part of the package deal. Story 44. The earth isn't round. It's only round because that's what we've always believed. If long ago, someone had declared the earth to be flat and the entire world believed it, then that would be the reality. If they had used the word flat instead of round, and round had never even existed in our vocabulary, then the earth wouldn't be round, because there would be no concept of round to compare it to. Aristotle or whoever would have theorized that the earth was flat. Magellan wouldn't have had any reason to think otherwise because the idea of roundness wouldn't have been there to challenge it. Now, if we had thought the earth was square, that's a different story. Same with flat. These are just words, labels we created to describe things. So is the earth round? Yeah, I guess so, because that's what we've always believed. They're just words. I need a drink. Story 45. The amount of time LGBTQ people spend denying who they are, or even slipping into being anti-LGBTQ themselves, is staggering. Even after coming out, so many still struggle with guilt and internalized shame. I spent 5 years trying to accept the very obvious fact that I was bi. I came out to my best friend and crush, same person, in 8th grade. And yet, by the end of that same year, I had somehow convinced myself that I was straight again. It wasn't until junior year of high school that I finally stopped lying to myself. I had spent my whole life making up excuses for how I felt. Then by senior year, it got so bad that I started having breakdowns over how much I hated my body. And even then, I kept telling myself it would just go away. Even now, I still feel guilty about liking feminine things, about wanting to transition. Before 8th grade, I was homophobic. Before senior year, I was transphobic. I even pushed away one of the nicest friends I ever had after he came out in junior year. I'll never forgive myself for that, but I really hope that he would forgive me. I just realized this might sound like venting, but that wasn't my intention. I just want people to understand. I've seen so many others go through the same thing, but it's rarely talked about outside of the community. Maybe it should be. Story 46. One of my former best friends and his fiancée had been together for nearly 5 years. Their wedding was just a few months away. They were very open about their relationship, especially their sex life. They constantly talked about how great it was, how they were intimate nearly every night. Everyone believed them. But a few months before the wedding, his fiancée confided in me. She told me they had never actually had sex. Not even once. Apparently, he was scared. From the start of their relationship, they had tried, but it never went anywhere. After a couple of years, he just lost interest completely. Instead of admitting the truth, he made her pretend, act like they were having sex all the time to keep up appearances, and that wasn't even the worst part. She also revealed that the relationship had been emotionally abusive. He manipulated and controlled her in ways no one ever saw, and she hid all of it to protect him. That was the moment I knew. That best friend is now a former best friend. Story 47. My best friend married his high school sweetheart. They were both virgins when they got married. I knew that much. What I didn't know, and only found out after they eventually divorced, was that they had only had sex about 20 times in their entire 10-year marriage. His wife got zero enjoyment from sex. She only did it when she wanted to get pregnant. And since they had 3 kids, all conceived relatively quickly, It meant long stretches of their marriage were completely sexless. But that wasn't all. She wouldn't allow him to masturbate. She wouldn't allow him to watch porn. And this wasn't for religious reasons. She just personally hated sex and didn't think he should have any kind of sexual outlet, period. The saddest part? He didn't even know any better. He just assumed that's how marriage was supposed to be. Fast forward to today, he's remarried to an amazing woman who loves him, loves intimacy, and has no problem making up for lost time. I've never seen him so happy. Story 48. A friend of mine came out as asexual. I had never met anyone who identified as asexual before, so I asked him a lot of questions within his comfort level about what it meant and what it was like being in a relationship. He told me that he simply doesn't have a sex drive. He doesn't find anything sexual, doesn't want to be sexual, and is completely indifferent to the idea of sex. Even though he's had sex before, he said he's always felt this way. He's been with his girlfriend for over 5 years. She is not asexual. She sleeps with other people, and he's totally fine with it. He's not interested in progressing the relationship, and she's okay with that for now. His biggest fear? How his family would react if they ever found out. He worries they would assume he's just suppressing homosexuality rather than accepting that he simply has no sexual attraction at all. Turns out, even people with no sexuality still have to worry about what others will think of them. Story 49. My friend finally got his first girlfriend at 20. I couldn't be happier for him. They have a lot in common and genuinely enjoy each other's company. One day he was hanging out with me and another friend while we were out eating, and we started joking around, asking if he had smashed yet. He said no, but mentioned they had done other things. Naturally, we asked for details, and he got a little timid. After some playful nudging, he finally admitted that he had fingered her. But that's not even the funny part. He's not used to the sounds that come along with it, the wet noises, the moans, so when he started, he silently giggled to himself. And then, after she moaned loudly, he completely lost it and burst out laughing in his famous high-pitched chortle. She was not happy about it at the time, but now, they both laugh about it.